friend of mine, and I say he's my friend, but actually he was like everyone's friend. He was just an amazing person, just one of those persons that spends all of their time with all these people and just seems to enjoy that, and he just wants to know more and more people. And so there I was with him sitting around, and we were talking about what we were going to do after we graduated from university. And he had a plan, and we were graduating very quickly, 3-4 months, and he said, well, I'm going to go and do mission work. I'm going to go do mission work. And I said, oh, that's great. Where are you going to go? Somewhere in Europe. I said, oh, that's fantastic. And he said, well, there is one little catch, but I know that God is going to deal with it. So I said, all right, well, what's the little catch? He said, well, I went to an Ivy League school. It turned out Harvard. He went to Harvard. Before this, he wasn't able to finish. The reason he wasn't able to finish was cost. He had about 100,000 quid worth of debt. And the mission organization said, you're welcome to come on the mission in the fall, but you need to be free of this debt before you go. In fact, you need to raise, on addition to that, about 60,000 more. So I looked over at him and I said, you're doing my head in here. Come on, let's be realistic. You're going to be paying for this for the next 20 years. You're not going to be able to do mission. And he said, listen, I am aware every day that I have this debt. I am aware every moment it's sitting over my head that I've got this big bill, but I know that the Lord wants me to go. And so I know that he's going to do something here. He's going to make a way for me to go in the fall and do mission work. And you know what? He was right. In dramatic fashion, that was taken care of. And I was shocked. He knew he had this great debt, but he was completely convinced that God could take care of it and would take care of it. And God did take care of it. So this morning we have this poor blind man, and he's aware that he's blind. And he also knows that God really wants to help. And he's a picture of what this ideal follower of Jesus Christ is. This is a picture of what Christ is looking at in followers. This man right here. We don't know much about him, but we know enough about him. The real followers of Christ realize they have great need and an even greater God. Real followers of Jesus Christ realize they have great need and an even greater God. So let's turn to Mark 10. You can find it on page 1015. And we really want to stay in God's Word and really dig into these words. So let's keep our hands on that page. And let's look at this idea first, the great need that we have, the great need that this man has. Let me give you a little background for what has taken place here. Jesus has, as I said, about 2 weeks to live, possibly. And he is at the last stop before Jerusalem. So Jerusalem is down at the bottom of this huge valley, at the bottom of which is Death Valley, the lowest point on earth. Death Valley is, Death Valley, the Dead Sea. The Dead Sea. Death Valley is in California. He's not in California. He's at the Dead Sea, lowest point on earth. The Death Valley is one of the lowest places on earth, all right? But anyway, and it's a mere miles away from Jericho. And Jericho is kind of this oasis. And so what would happen is whenever you went to Jerusalem, everyone would go to Jericho as kind of their last stop. So you fill up on gas there, and you get the snacks, and you water the animals, and the kids run in the field. You say, well, in a couple minutes, we've got to go up the hill, okay? And it's 35 miles and about 3,000 feet, okay? So here, up you go, this mountain. And then you're in Jerusalem. That's where you end up. So what has happened here is as Jesus is making his way, people don't know, but Jesus knows this is it. This is my last hurrah. I'm about to go to Jerusalem and die. And he takes the disciples around and he says, listen, I'm going up to Jerusalem. The Pharisees and the leaders are going to turn against me. I'm going to be crucified. In 3 days, again, I'll rise. But nobody else knows that. The crowd that is going with them is excited to go to a wonderful festival that they look forward to every year. It's a semi-joyous occasion. Now, as they exit Jericho, what has happened is it's prime time for begging. You know, everyone's going up to Jerusalem to give and to do these festivals. And so here, people would come from all around Israel, and they would go to Jericho, out of the door gate of Jericho, as people are exiting to go up the hill, and they would say, alms, alms, please, alms, sir, alms. And so this man that we run into here, Bartimaeus, isn't necessarily from Jericho. It's very unlikely. He's just in the prime spot. And so this is where we pick it up. We've got this guy, and he looks, for all intents and purposes, like he's just an extremely loud, extremely demanding beggar. He wants money, and he's trying to tell people, I want money. But it's not exactly that, is it? So let's take a look at verse 46 through 47. Then they came to Jericho as Jesus and his disciples, together with a large crowd, were leaving the city. A blind man, Bartimaeus, son of Timaeus, was sitting by the roadside begging. When he heard that it was Jesus of Nazareth, he began to shout, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. Have mercy on me. So Bartimaeus, just so you know, it doesn't say which is translated in the original Greek language there at all. It just says son of Timaeus. And it's really likely that this person, Timaeus, is known by the early church. That's why it's there. This is the son of Timaeus, just so everybody knows. His name is Bartimaeus, which means Bar, son of Timaeus. But he's actually, they're saying, oh, we know Timaeus, and this is his son. So just in passing, the book of Mark was written during the time where there was an older man there named Timaeus who had a son who Jesus touched and was able to see, okay? This is not fiction. This is not made up hundreds of years after the fact. This is like within 20 years of the resurrection event at the latest. Okay, this is the son of Timaeus. Oh, I know that guy. Oh, that's who you're talking about. He's over there in the corner. Let's go talk to him, okay? This is real. This isn't fiction. But that being said, right? Oh man, Bartimaeus is super, super insightful, isn't he? He says, Son of David, give me mercy. Son of David, have mercy on me. Now, when he says son of David, what he means is David is going to have a great-great-great-grandchild who's called the Messiah. And the Messiah is going to save his people. He's going to open blind eyes. He's going to rescue broken people. And Bartimaeus says that's this man. No, nobody else has said that. Literally no one has said at this point, you're the son of David in the whole book. No one has said that in the gospel. All of the gospels together. This guy figured something crazy out. The only other person that said that Jesus is the Messiah is, everybody knows, Peter, right? Remember Peter? You are the Christ. That is, you are the Messiah. That's the Greek word for Messiah. And Jesus said, you're right. Now don't tell anybody that for a while, okay? Right? That's what he said. You're right, but don't tell until I rise from the dead. And everybody goes, rise from the dead? That's a long way off, buddy. So nobody knows this, and Jesus isn't saying it. And here, this whole crowd around him hasn't said it. All of these religious people who have hung out with Jesus haven't said it. Who is it that puts the pieces together? This blind beggar here. That's who. Why? Why him? Why did he get it? Well, here's what we know from him. We know he's blind. He knows he needs help. That's it. He's blind. He needs help. He knows it. That's all that we know about this man. And so, I was actually thinking about this. Some of you have had the unfortunate incidents of getting to a place where you are in deep need financially. Not in small need, like I am semi-bankrupt, and you are forced to go to a family member and essentially say, can you loan me some money? I had a friend who had to do this, and he actually burst into tears when he said this. Can you loan my family some money? It was so hard. This is his day, every day, all day, every year, all year. This is his life. He can't see. In this society, if you don't bake well, you're going to starve. If you have something like this, this is not kidding games. This is like, are you going to live? And it's based on this notion that everybody has to be merciful to you. He understands his need. He's not delusional that he is blind. Now, here's the interesting thing. That word blindness in the Bible, it's used as a theological metaphor. It's used to tell us something. It says, actually, God says, we are blind. God says, we have a hard time seeing. So here we have this blind man, and God is kind of like saying, and we'll find out later that this is the picture of faith. This is the picture of a follower of Jesus. And he's blind. And God's really saying, actually, everyone's blind. Everyone can't see. When it comes to spirituality, when it comes to morality, we see crooked. I was thinking about how to illustrate this, and I was really happy that there are piñatas here in the UK, because I wasn't sure there was piñata. Everybody know what piñatas are? Yes? Okay, good, I'm glad. Because I Googled it to make sure that this would work. So you have a piñata, and here's the game. You take this child, and you blindfold them, and then you give them a bat. This is normally a recipe for disaster, by the way. You give them a bat, and then you twirl them around, right? Okay, and then you got your piñata on the string, and the whole game is actually to make fun of the child, right? They're going to swing at this, and you're going to pull it up in time, and they're going to almost miss and fall down, and then eventually, because you don't want the child to burst into tears, you put the thing really close so they can have one whack at it, and you say, okay, that's enough, and then you get another kid, and you play this terrible game until the piñata breaks and all the candy comes out. See, this is what our view of religion is. We're blind, we can't see, we don't know what's right, we don't know what's wrong in its fullness, we struggle morality-wise, and so we start swinging at things. And if you go to the bookstore, and if you walk about, there's so many swinging things. There's so many books out there. There's so many religious ideas. There's so many meditations. There's so many thoughts about religion and life and how to be a good person. And it's all just swinging in the dark. And we need help. It's not enough. Jesus says, blind. But we are all blind. The blessed person is the one that knows they're blind. The one that understands it. That's part of Ace. He's got things figured out. There's some people here who don't have it figured out. Some people who need to check their privilege. Look, verse 48. Many rebuked him and told him to be quiet. He shouted all the more, Son of David, have mercy on me. Son of David, have mercy on me. And Jesus calls and says, Jesus says, call him. Jesus calls him, and they tell him, cheer up, he's calling you. Cheer up, he's calling you. So, can you imagine the insults that this man has already received during the course of his life for being blind? Be quiet, be quiet. And they tell him, just shut up. And this is not the first time they told people to shut up. Earlier in the chapter, they've already told someone to shut up. It was children. And they brought the children in, and they wanted to see Jesus, and they said, kiddos, this is for grown-ups, and particularly it's for grown-ups like us, who deserve to be around Jesus. There's this whole class of people who think, I'm religious, I'm good, and I have a special connection. Jesus owes me attention. He doesn't owe these people. You're nobody. Go sit over there. I'm done with you. You're not important. I want you to be very careful here. Because this is the person that Jesus says, here's what I'm hoping for you. Now, I was thinking about this. Like, how many of us have not walked down the street, seen a beggar, and then kind of like moved our feet a little bit like this, and like, I'm going to go around you, right? I do not want to be bothered. And certainly one thing that we would not do is invite them to church. What if they came? They'd be asking everyone for money. No way. So we struggle with this, actually. The kingdom of God is filled with the needy and the broken, but not the church of God. Whoa. Jesus values them, and he particularly says their neediness is commendable. They know they have needs. They know they need help. Well, we're all too good for that, though. Oh, there's interesting things coming out here, okay? Now look at this. It says he's crying out. Would you guys like to know what that is in the Greek? It's crying out. He's really losing it. He is losing his stuff, trying to get help. He looks silly. He doesn't have it together. It's almost as if he's saying, if you don't answer me, I'm as good as dead. Help me out of this. Please hear me. I was thinking about the illustration that I've heard. There's two British blokes, okay, and it's World War II, and they're in their bunker, and the bunker gets hit by a missile, and one of the poor guys, it just blows his arm right off, okay? So the two of them now are standing there, he has no arm, and he says, whoa, it seems that my arm is blown off. And his friend says, so it does seem that, right? And then he says, I don't want to trouble you, but would you possibly, I've only got one arm, this isn't going so well, could you get the bandages over there, if it wouldn't be too much trouble, and I hate to put you out, but could you possibly help me onto the stretcher, and maybe, I mean, it's a lot to ask, but would you take me to the medic, okay? Like, it is terrible to put ourselves in this position of need, isn't it? He's crying out. Society says, don't cry out. Get your act together. Don't turn your life over to Jesus. Don't admit you have problems. Oh, that's shameful. Jesus says, admit you have problems. Jesus says, we're blind. Come and weep and beg and ask, and I will hear you. I will hear you. And then Jesus says, actually, it's very interesting. He says, call him, right? So now the man responds in faith, but also he's telling the people who told this person to shut up. Actually, that's the person that I admire. Go and get him. This is what I'm looking for. You go and get him. You bring him here. Because that's what I value. So that's point one. We have a great need, and it's portrayed in this man, Bartimaeus. Bartimaeus is us, spiritually. Bartimaeus is us. We have a great need, and I'm not entirely convinced we truly see our own desperation. I think we're totally delusional to it. We think, I've made some mistakes, but we don't realize how dark our vision really is. Well, now, secondly, and perhaps more importantly, we have a greater God. So we have great need. We have great need, but we have a greater God. We have a greater God. It's a Surge illustration, I think. The illustration is there's a man and he wakes up, he's the boss of a company, and he wakes up for one day, and for whatever reason, he begins to be able to hear what his employees are saying in their heads, okay? So they're thinking, and he can hear it now. So he's walking around, and, he's surprised, at what they're thinking about him. He hears all of it, and it's really terrible. I mean, it's the whole day he's listening to people just natter on about what a terrible person he is. And then, at the end of the day, he goes to the bathroom, and he looks himself in the mirror, and he realizes it's all true. And then he falls down dead. That's how the story ends. Oh, that's very encouraging. He falls down dead. We're totally terrified of looking ourselves in the eyes. Really seeing who we are. We don't want to know. And some people would look at Christians and, they start, oh no, not another talk about sin. Oh, I can't take it. I do not want to hear all the negativity that I think is probably true about myself. Really don't want to know about it. So yeah, we do have to admit and come forward in this negative way and say, I am blind. I can't see. But that's not where we leave it. We leave it on, we have a greater God. We're eternally optimistic. God will help me. Now that I've come clean, now that I've shown who I am, God will be there. He will help me. And then this is what we see. So let's look at verse 50 through 52. Throwing his cloak aside, He jumped to his feet and came to Jesus. "What do you want me to do for you?" Jesus asked. The blind man said, "Rabbi, to see." "Go," said Jesus, "your faith has healed you." Immediately, he received his sight and followed Jesus along the way. So this is a huge behavior flip. I mean, he is emotionally distraught before and crying out, "Save me, save me, save me." And then someone says, "Cheer up, it's going to be okay. He's calling for you." And he's like, "He is?" Whoosh! He throws his stuff and jumps up and goes, "Yes!" Now, why did he throw his cloak? That's weird. So the cloak is, you guys have seen bakers, right, who have hurt limbs and whatnot. And what do? They sit down and they take their cloak out and they put the cloak there and they say, put the money in the cloak. This is where the money would be. And so by him just flipping this out, he's saying, "Well, I don't have need for that no more." He knows what's going to happen. Whoa. Incredible. He believes right now. You know, it says here that Jesus answers him. Answers what? He asked a question. He said, "Won't you have mercy on me?" And Jesus' answer is, "Of course I will. Of course I will." Now listen, you might think I have rubbished my life. That's not uncommon. It is not uncommon to sit down with somebody and to really begin to discuss their life, and they say, essentially, "I've wrecked it. And I don't feel like I want to be near God." You might have rubbished your week. You might have found a massive pile of sin and been unable to stop yourself from just sitting in it all week long. And you've come to church now feeling horrible and hoping that I'm going to encourage you. I'm going to encourage you. Jesus, if you will come to him and say, "Have mercy on me," what is the answer? Of course. Of course I will. I will lift you up if you will just come. Come, messy, just come. I love you. And so Jesus has this man as a display of faith now, right? He comes and he says, "Let me ask you a question." What do you want? Kind of obvious, right? Well, actually, they might be thinking he's going to say, "Can I have some quid?" And what a weird story this would be if that was the answer, right? "Can you give me some quid so I can pay my bills?" He immediately says, he blurts it out. Blurts it out. He just says, "Rabbi, to see." That's it. Rabbi, to see. To see! You know what I want. And as he says, to see, he sees. Go. Instantly. Now, why did Jesus do that? Because he wants everybody else to see this is the faith I reward. The faith that is desperate, the faith that comes desperate, but in hope. We must hope God will actually help us in our brokenness. He will do it. If we'll simply believe that we can come however we are, we can come in our brokenness. It doesn't matter if you've ruined the whole of your life so far. Actually, that's pretty normal for living outside of God's will and love for you. Come today, and he will use it. He will turn your life around. He will establish you. He will raise you up. You will walk the heights. And you will be taken into glory. Now, here's a caveat. God doesn't heal every blind person. God doesn't heal every sick person. God doesn't heal most sick people as far as I don't know. I haven't asked God how many people he heals, but it seems like the majority of them are not getting healed. But what will God do every single time? Let's turn to James 1:5 and see this. Every single time, without fail. It is at the end, by the way. It's right after Hebrews. And it's page 1 to 1213 is what it is. 1213. And we'll read verse 5 here. who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given you. There's no clause of it may be given you here. It will be given. If you ask and you believe, it will be given. It is a 100% guarantee. Oh, by the way, wisdom, that's something that we learn as we go through life, but also Jesus is divine wisdom. Hey, if you ask for Jesus, you're going to get him every time. If you come to Jesus, he will never reject you. If you ask God to restore your sight spiritually, he's going to restore it. This is a guarantee. There is no condition here. God is as certain as the sun for us. And he can be depended upon. And so we need to see that. This is our hope. Jesus is certain. We are a mess. He will help us. He is gracious. Now look at this. Jesus ends on, your faith has saved you. It might say heal. Does it say heal here? Yeah, same word. Heal, saved, same word. And the idea is your faith in Jesus is actually, that's what you needed. So yes, it's okay to be broken. You know, people who are really, really broken, and that's all they are, they don't come to Jesus, a lot of times, sadly, they might commit suicide. That it's not enough to know that you're broken and that you're a bad person, right? Or morally, you haven't done what you ought to do. You need to have a confidence that Jesus can help you. In fact, you need to put your hope in him. You need to display that you believe in Jesus. And then he does. Now, Jesus is on his way to Jerusalem to die on a cross. I mean, who came up with that? Well, it's a plan. It's a plan to save you. He's on his way to die for this man who he's just restored his vision for. And he's on his way to die for you and me. And he's going to go and do what it takes. He is greater. His love is greater than all of our sins and all of our blindness. So that's our message. Followers realize they have great need and an even greater God. Let's think about what we could do to make this message useful to us. And I was thinking about enacting that principle every day in our life. So the moment that you wake up in the morning and you say, I don't really need God to be here. I can do things on my own. I'm not desperate today. That is the moment that you're going to fail. You might function just fine at getting the things of the world done, but you're failing morally, religiously. You're failing because you have spiritual blindness. It doesn't change once you meet Jesus. You're no longer blind. It's like you have to continue to every day repent and every day be in need of Christ. It's necessary for you to wake up each moment of your life, each day of your life, and say, I need Jesus more than ever today. I must continue in him broken until the day that I go home to be with him, and then he will carry me. And the problem is that we get to this place where we think, I don't need to be broken anymore, and I don't need to ever say that I'm wrong again, and I certainly do not need to confess before others that I'm a wretched sinner. I will just cover it all. Jesus says the way forward in our growth is actually to say each and every day, today, I follow Jesus, and I'm broken, and I need his help. I can't make it through my day otherwise. But then to say, Jesus will do amazingly inside of me today, just as he has done throughout history, just as he has done through the cross. He will help me in my weakness. And this is how you become a mature Christian. If we cannot bring ourselves to be broken, we also cannot realize the joy of walking in faith and seeing Christ do amazing things. They go hand in hand. So will you do that? Will you start to pattern your life according to the gospel every day? Jesus, I can't do it.